A lifetime in dance leads to a career in property technology? Today on Stories Behind the Door podcast, the head of enterprise sales at Uniti AI, Maggie Bode. She's a recognized voice for the innovation technology is bringing into self-storage and an even bigger force in helping to shape the future leaders of our industry. Really excited this morning to be joined by Maggie Bode, head of enterprise sales at Uniti AI. I'm going to ask her to hang on for 1 second as I give a shout out to my friends at Kiwi 2. 30 plus years of putting up steel buildings in self-storage and small bay flex. Wayne Woolsey and his team, simply the best crews in steel. Reach out to them early if you have a project in the works to get the benefit of their 3 decades plus of experience. KiwiSteel.com. New name change, updated recently. No longer Kiwi 2 Construction. Really excited for Wayne and his team. I'm done talking about Kiwi 2 Construction. I'm diving in with Maggie Bode, head of enterprise sales at Uniti AI. Maggie, first of all, really cool that we're talking on a Friday morning live on the podcast. And Wednesday night and Thursday, we were hundreds of miles away in Connecticut. It was great to see you up at the Northeast Storage Expo.
So good to see you. Twice in 1 week. I feel very lucky.
As do I. All right, we're going to dive in. The podcast always starts with the same question. Self-storage, such a unique industry. It's such a niche. It's not something that most people, even the people I know that were born into storage families, didn't set out to be involved in storage when they grew up. How did Maggie Bode get to be involved in the self-storage industry?
Yeah. So I was headhunted into it. I have a background, my first kind of commercial real estate job, I was working for a tech company in the multifamily space called Hello Alfred. And I worked there and got to know the multifamily side of things, which was very interesting. You know, you're dealing with people's homes. And I got an email from a recruiter from DaVinci. And I was like, self-storage, what is this? Locks, what is this? And then met the team and, you know, it's kind of history from there. So.
Love it. And now I got to ask you, because I had a recruiter on yesterday. Who was the recruiter that is? Are you allowed to say who the recruiter was that put you into?
It's such a good question. I wish I could remember. His name was Jordan. So Jordan, thank you. I'm sure the 10 Federal team could give kudos to them.
No worries. Shout out to Jim McGuffin from Hirewell. He was on yesterday. He was a recruiter in storage. I thought that was incredible that the next day there's somebody that was recruited into the industry. Talk to me about that experience. Obviously 10 Federal, very unique when they got into the industry. There are other people doing what they're doing now, but when they started, were super tech forward in how they approach self-storage. What was that like for you being involved in DaVinci Lock and getting exposed as your first exposure to self-storage to that team and that company?
Yeah, I mean, Brad and Cliff, who run 10 Federal, and Jeff, who runs DaVinci, there is such an ingenuity there, and there's a creativity and an ownership. I think it's very rare where you have someone and people running a company that are so self-storage oriented and very smart, but also so tech oriented and willing to kind of do everything on their own. It's very cool. And it was such a good environment to be around learning storage, but also bringing in what I knew from the PropTech multifamily side and applying that to a different vertical in commercial real estate.
I want to go back to getting into commercial real estate, even at the beginning, before you got into self-storage, you're doing multifamily. I know a little bit about your background, and we'll dive into that a little bit as we go through the podcast, but talk to me about how you got into commercial real estate to begin with and why PropTech. What was it about it that drew in Maggie Bode?
Yeah. So the company I was at, I mean, I didn't even know what commercial real estate was when I joined. I had a background in nonprofit fundraising. And I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And this company, I mean, what we did was Hello Alfred, Batman's Butler. We had people that went into homes and did your kind of everyday chores, right? Like we got your groceries, we got your dry cleaning, and we had Alfreds that put them in your home in these high-rise multifamily buildings in large cities. So I came in on the operations side and got to experience launching a market and then eventually managing that market. And then that kind of led into managing customer success and client relations for our real estate partners, which was really interesting. I was in New York and, you know, we worked with Brookfield and Related and all of these really incredible operators. And it was, you know, I didn't know what commercial real estate was before I got into it really. And then, you know, you go into storage and you're like, I had no idea that this industry was so big before I dipped my toes into it.
as someone who got into real estate very late in life and had no idea the scale of the things you start talking about and how crazy that is. I want to dive into something that you said to me Wednesday. As I said, we were up at Foxwoods at the Northeast Storage Association, Northeast Storage Expo. I want to talk about something you said. I mentioned to you, and this is something you're very upfront about. Unity AI, obviously bringing AI voice and phone calls to the industry and chatbots, and you've got a bunch of different products, and we'll go into that. But this has been a vertical that has gotten crowded very quickly. And I say
Mm.
crowded, like it went from zero to now I know 3 or 4 different groups that are doing it. I loved your response. And I didn't really tell you this when you were there, but I was thinking about it as I left, which is, and you can kind of share with me your view on the fact that you're not alone in this, right? There are other people that are competing, and talk to me how Maggie Bode, the individual, sees it and how you see it from the perspective of Unity AI.
Yeah. I mean, I fully believe like competition makes us better, right? Pressure, pressure makes diamonds. Competition always makes us stronger. I think there's room for everybody. I think operators in this space are so different. Everybody operates a little differently. Everybody uses their management softwares a little differently. There's no one way to do it. And I think that's so special about how operators have found success. I think for us, we have really nailed it on the enterprise level. We have figured out how do we work with really large operators and how do we scale agents in the way that they want to be scaled. And of course, we work with all sizes of operations all across the world. And I think that's the unique trait that we found is like one size does not fit all. One size doesn't even fit one, right? This is so customizable. And we want to stay true to that and make sure that we are flexible in the way that we're deploying agents to our customers.
I'm old enough to remember a road. I'm not quite old enough to remember a party line. My mom grew up sharing a phone line with multiple houses on her
Mhm.
street. I'm not quite that old, but I am old enough to remember a time where you called somebody and if they didn't answer, they didn't answer. There was no
Yeah.
voice recorders yet, right? And
Yeah.
I then was alive for voice recorders. I then was alive for voicemail, which was like mind-boggling. I then was alive for when you got an automated answering machine. And it was like, press one for this, press two. And I could tell you the most annoying thing in the world. People are still using that. Like people still have real businesses that have a answering machine giving you press a number to go. How mind blowing is that for you that we're at this place where you have technology where you never have to lose somebody because they pressed the wrong number?
Yeah, it's amazing. And yes, there are a lot of operators are still using press one for sales, press two for service. Are you a current customer? Or are you a new customer? We eliminate that by saying, your agent answers and they just ask, are you a current customer or are you a new customer? Or they just answer and they say, hi, Maggie, because you've called before and we have your phone number saved in the system. It's great. And I mean, we talk about barriers to entry and marketing and service and operations, and having an agent answer the phone immediately, one, it allows you to not lose a customer because we know that speed is everything. And two, it destroys the barrier to entry for a customer that's like, do I really want to press 7 buttons to get to where I need to be? No. It
So
allows
annoying.
you, yeah, it's so much more streamlined.
How blown away were you? And I'll ask you how you got there, but when you first heard the tech and you heard the AI driven voice answering, how did you feel when you first heard it?
Yeah, I'll be so honest. Before I came to Unity, I used AI. It was encouraged when we were at DaVinci, I think, and give a lot of credit to Jeff for this. He's like, use it. How can you make yourself more efficient? So we were using it on my team. And, when I joined Unity, I was like, whoa, there is such a world to be learned. I think all of us are a little skeptical when we first were like, I don't want to talk to a robot. I want to talk to a human. And most times when I talk to Delta Airlines, I'm like, talk to a human. But as I got to talk to customers and listen to some of the actual voice conversation, I was blown away. And if you get somebody on the phone that is willing to just be like, yes, I want to rent a unit. I want a 10 by 10. Tell me what climate control is. Like all of the qualifying questions that a call center asks, or it's amazing. It's amazing what it can do in different languages, different dialects. And we're still not even, there's still so much more that it's going to be able to do every day.
Hey, James Hatfield, shout out to him, Live Switch. When I first met him, this was a light bulb moment. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because the same thing happened with you guys and what I'm seeing. James Hatfield, their company is able to do live calling on a phone, right?
Yeah.
Like you can go video to video, and that company services Google and services massive companies. The mind switch that went off for me is, how much better is a salesperson going to be if they're servicing 30 stores and all they do is answer sales calls over and over again, because they're not sitting at one store waiting for a customer to come to them. 30 stores worth of customers are coming to them. I had this same thought with you guys and what you're doing, because the solution is not really about sales, right? You're not trying
Mm,
to take away the high level salesperson. Quite the
no.
opposite. You want to kind of give a technology that allows that a high level salesperson to just deal with sales. So talk a little bit about some of the things that go on in a storage facility that your voice chat, AI is really able to take off the plate of the person that really should be selling.
Yeah. And I think that's a critical point too. And every operator we talk to is like, your AI is never going to be better than my best salesperson. 100%.
Yeah.
Sales teams that are dedicated to sales in a call center are trained and incentivized to rent units. I was talking to somebody yesterday at the conference that was like, your AI will never be better than me. And I was like, I'm not going to challenge you on that, because I can feel that you could sell me a 20 by 30 unit and take all my money, and I would probably say yes to you. So what the agents are able to do, it allows your team to have more time to do the more meaningful work, right? So think about all the calls that a call center gets throughout the day of like, what time is the facility open? What's my balance? I want to make a payment. How high are the ceilings? Things like that, where it's so easy for an agent to say ceilings are 10 feet, ceilings are 8 feet. And it allows your team to kind of cut through the noise. We can contain, and that's a word that we use internally about how much can the agent handle on its own. And it's typically about 80% of calls. That other 20% is, those maybe more sensitive calls of like, why is somebody late or delinquent on a payment? Or, I have a vehicle and it's got a hitch, and all of like the little nuanced questions that your sales team can answer. Transfer those over. We can escalate. The agent is smart enough to know when to escalate, when they don't need to escalate, when to handle objections, when it needs to go to a human. So that's all. And it's all customizable. It's all based on the operator, what they want. When somebody says, I want to rent a unit, it goes straight to the sales center. The agent is able to rent a unit from end to end, which is incredible.
I have this conversation a lot. I have three kids. My son's 25 years old now and has autism, has lived his world on a computer. He gotten to a point now at 25 where I can hold a full conversation with him, which has been nice. And my 19-year-old, same thing. Given the choice of speaking to a human or not, if they can do something without having to physically talk to another human being,
Yeah.
they'll do it. And so I think this is an interesting thing. And I'm going to ask a question at the end of this, but I often hear from people, well, humans will always be involved in the process. And I'm like, man, I don't know if you have kids under the age of 25, quite frankly, right? Because
Good
kids under
point.
the age of 25 have lived with a phone in their hand. And like, if I walk up to a store and I tell my 14-year-old to get out of the car and go inside and order food, she's like, no, dad, I can't. And it's like a real an anxiety reaction of like,
Yeah.
I gotta go up to the counter and I gotta talk to somebody to order a hamburger. The question becomes is, are we at this inflection point where if you're not embracing technology and you're not allowing for your customer to have a fully online experience, there may be a human at some point, but maybe not. They might, Public Storage has announced in their last three earnings calls and the call to announce the NSA merger, 85% of their customer interaction is now digital. It doesn't
Yeah.
involve a human being. Are we at this inflection point where it's kind of like get on the boat or get left behind?
I think yes, but I also don't want to scare somebody. Jen from All Purpose and I did a roundtable yesterday at the association. And there were, I think that's why I love regional conferences so much, is because you get such a diverse population of operators, right? You have REITs, you have, large private operators, you have mom and pops. And I never want to scare somebody into saying, get on board or get lost, because there are areas in our country in those tertiary markets, and even, not tertiary markets, where you will still have a population of people that want to come in and talk to a human. But I do think when we think about, a REIT or a large private operator, like how are they thinking about scaling their business effectively? And how are you meeting your very diverse customer where they are, right? Some people want to talk to a human, some people don't. Some people want to text, some people want to email. And I think when we talk about the world of AI and especially agentic AI in this sector, there are so many ways that you can connect with people that are coming to your business. And we want to offer all of those workflows for you, because it's where do you meet somebody where they are, not how do I get somebody to meet me where I am as a business?
Something fascinating at one of the education sessions. I think Mark Sierra from Storage Defender asked the question. Is like, well, what? Or it might have been Gary Edmonds. I can't remember who said it, but regardless, the
Two
point
great
was
guys.
two great guys for sure. We'll give both of them credit. How about that? The thing they said was, look, maybe you don't offer 24/7 service, but you can't have a human being on site of a storage facility 24/7. You can't afford the cost of that in 2026 in most markets. Maybe if you're in downtown Manhattan, okay, you're charging, $70, $80 a square foot. You can get away with having more human
Thaddeus,
beings
I'm
on
so
site.
sorry. I didn't hear that last phrase because it cut out a little bit.
No worries. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I don't know what happened here. Let's try and come me. Oh, I don't know what happened. I muted myself. Can you hear me
Now I
now?
can hear you. Yes, yes.
I somehow hit mute. I have no idea how. What I was saying was employees are the biggest cost for self-storage facilities. I was just on a call with Noah Starr. Tract IQ did their big event
Yeah,
on Tuesday,
I
which
saw
was
that.
awesome, by the way, if you haven't seen it. And he talked about employees being the number one cost of the facility, higher than property taxes, which some people find hard to believe. We're in this, period in the industry where everyone's trying to control expenses. That doesn't mean getting rid of people on your facility necessarily, but it
Yeah,
does mean you can't have someone there 24/7. How does Uniti AI sort of help? Listen, people have emergencies at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, right? And they need a place to go and put their stuff. How is Uniti AI able to kind of fill that gap for storage owners without having to have a paid employee on site to deal with it?
yeah. We, think of Unity and your agent as your best employee that works 24/7 that you never have to have like a performance review with. It's very easy to change prompting for an agent. It's not very easy to change the habits of a human. Um, So the biggest and the lowest hanging fruit is after hours support, right? Even if you work on both coasts, like you've still got some hours where your facilities are not being managed or looked after and the phones are not being answered. A lot of operators say, well, there's just a few calls, but those few calls could be, you think about the lifetime value of a renter, those 10 calls that come in overnight could be, 2 years of 10 people renting a unit at your facility. So it's not about getting rid of people. It's not about, AI is going to take over our jobs because, some of those salespeople that are on teams have been there for years. And I still, I'll say it to this day, people are the most important part of storage. I love listening to people talk about like, well, I worked with him at, Public for 10 years and now he's over here and we work together here. And that is the most important piece of storage is like people start in the call center and now they're VP of operations at a company. But it's those missing windows, right? Like if a manager steps out to go do a lock check or to go sweep out a unit, what if somebody calls and they want to rent? You miss that call and then they go down the street to someone else. So how are you filling in the gaps of opportunity for yourself to make sure that you're not leaving anything on the table?
I think about another common theme that comes up all the time, which is Google reviews and how important they are. And I live my
Ooh,
life this way, right? Like if I'm in a new city and I want to go out to a restaurant, I'm looking at Google reviews and I'm going to the restaurant that has a 4.8 instead of a 4.7. And it's literally that simple of a decision for me, as long as it's some type of food that I want to eat. People are doing this when they go to rent their storage. So my question here is, and it goes back to what I said earlier about a call that says press one or press three or press seven and how friggin' frustrating it is, especially if there's multiple levels to numbers you have to hit. how helpful is this on the other side for the customer experience to just be able to talk to, even though it's not a human being, to be able to have somebody answer the phone and get to the answer you need in a way that is, you don't have to wait for a phone call back to get that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is funny you say that because we also do review agents too. So thinking about that, I mean, it works in so many different workflows. I think when, I admittedly rented storage for the first time this past summer because I was moving. And for me, and probably I think we've seen this in a lot of studies, it's not necessarily about price, it's about speed. Because when somebody needs storage, they need it now. And if I'm not waiting for somebody to call me back, I'm going to rent with that first place that I call. And if not, I'm going down the street. So it's about convenience and it's about speed. It's not, I mean, price is a huge piece of it, right? We talk about rates all the time, but if your customer service is instant and it's quick and there's no gaps in your service, it's gonna beat price, I think.
It's so fascinating to me. And you were on a tech roundtable on Storage Unlocked with Jacob Panda, who said one of the best things I've ever heard, which is let tech do what tech does well, and let humans
Yes.
do what humans do well. And I'm guilty of this too, right? Like, I don't show up with the same energy level every single time I host a podcast. There's days where life is kind of crushing you, and
You
you
should
know
take that back. I've seen a lot of your podcasts. You are full of
I'll
energy
send you I'll
consistently.
send you a couple of them. I can share with you wholeheartedly. They're not all the same because you just have life, right? Like, you
Yeah,
could be the
we're
best
human.
salesperson in the world, and life gets into you. So for something like, you know, a call that's annoying for a salesperson who wants to get feedback, and they live off of, maybe they're getting commission off of it or whatever. Um, hey, Eric, mute yourself, my friend. Um,
And we're
those
live.
people, they, yeah, no, right. My guy behind the scenes always takes care of it, but every once in a while he's interjects. They get a bonus off of sales, and if somebody's calling them
Yeah.
up and they're having a bad day and they're like, "Hey, what's my lock number? I don't remember." That's an annoyance to humans sometimes. Whereas
Yeah.
for AI, you can continue to seamlessly keep that customer experience at a high level and not have to have someone's bad day enter into your customer experience. Anyway, as you
Yeah.
see, I'm
Your
fully on
age
board.
your agent is always happy. We've gotten some feedback sometimes about like they're a little too cheery and you're like, okay, we'll turn it down.
But you can do that, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's
your
all
various
adjustable.
customers. Yeah, love it. Somebody wants to schedule a time with Maggie to go over what Unity looks like. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you and to set up a time to be able to go over what Unity does and demo the product?
Yeah. They can email me. My email is maggie@getunity.com. Oh, that was good. Very easy. And then I have a link on my LinkedIn where you can book time with me, or, that's really the easiest way. Would love to chat through how it can adjust to every operation in a lot of different
If
ways, not just sales and service.
if you have any trouble getting a hold of Maggie, reach out to me. I'm very easy to find and I'll get you connected. No problem. Right. Very, very easy to do. So appreciate talking about this. Obviously gets me excited. I love what tech is doing in the industry and embrace that. I've always kind of been that person that is an early adopter and seeing it. Fascinating thing that came out of I mentioned Noah Starr on Tuesday, the Tracked IQ event. John C. Lindsay was on that with us. And off camera, John said something that was mind blowing to me. Less than 1% of Americans currently have signed up for a free version of AI, a free version. That number is
Hmm.
0.3% for a paid version. Now, this is John
Wow.
Lindsay. I'm going to throw John under the bus. Those numbers came from him, but absolutely fascinating to think how minuscule the amount of people that have adopted this technology and what an advantage to market that the people who do adopt it early are going to have. So appreciate that. I'm going to shift gears now because your story is so cool to me. East Carolina University, go Pirates, right?
Yeah.
Why I knew that, I have no idea. I think there was a quarterback from East Carolina who used to play for the New England Patriots. I'm a diehard
Yep.
Patriots fan. But what fascinates me about this is you got into Hello Alfred and PropTech and now working for Unity AI. You majored in dance at East Carolina.
I
Talk to
sure
me
did.
about that, the value of that in your education, and obviously you danced early in your life and how that played a role in where you're at now.
Yeah. Listen, I think I might be one of one in storage that has a BFA in dance performance. I danced my whole life. I've danced since I was 4 years old. So I danced for over 20 years. And um, I felt very strongly that when I went into school, I was like, I also have a business degree, by the way. So, there's always a backup. But
Love it.
I credit it to like, I have such fantastic parents that were like, live your dreams, like do whatever you want. Once I got out of school, it was, you kind of realize that it's not a sustainable thing unless you are, you know, absolutely committed to it. And I think there were so many other pieces that I wanted to experience and activate my brain in a certain way. But dance, I will say, is the one thing that has given me like work ethic and resilience and how to show up, how to perform, right? Like we're all kind of performing every day. And, certainly if you're on time, you're late. That's something that I live by now. But I have, it's funny, I have zero regrets. Like, no, I don't have a business degree from an Ivy League, but I do have a dance degree that taught me how to walk on my toes in a block of cement. So, like, to each their own. It was an incredible experience. And, the journey is not linear.
I love a couple things you said there. First of all, I have an English and history degree from Tufts and graduated and realized, this is a problem. I don't want to teach. What do I do now? So I went to grad school and got a master's degree in broadcast journalism, which I don't use either. I work in self-storage,
You're
although I
using
do
it
do a
right
podcast.
now.
I'm using it a little bit, but this is not my
Come
day job.
on.
This is a side gig I do on top of my day job. I am not one of one. Shout out to my man, Tim Ryan, who also graduated from Syracuse University, and Andrew Jones, famous for the bolo tie and truck parking club, went
Yeah,
to Walker Concrete at Arizona State. For some reason, communications degrees come in handy in the self storage space, but that's a whole
for
different
sure.
story. I thought that was fascinating. The other piece of that resonates with me, obviously, I spent a lot of my adult life teaching martial arts, is the idea of being on time. Right? Like how
Yeah.
crazy it is. Like, I always used to tell students, if you can show up consistently at 3 minutes after class starts, you could show up consistently 5 minutes before class starts, and
Yeah.
how valuable that is. Talk to me about that, because that matters when you're doing business with people.
Yeah. Showing up is the easiest and the hardest part. I think it's a matter, I mean, if you came into a dance class late, you got kicked out. Like you weren't able to come in and, you get graded on showing up, which you also do with your partners, right? You get graded on showing up for a meeting or a demo or a site visit. I think people are like, well, I don't want to be too early because that's embarrassing. No, 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 no. Get there early. Show up like you're ready to learn and listen and be engaged, and that it's showing up is everything. In your attitude and in your timing and the way that you present yourself. It's everything.
I knew there's a reason I was drawn to your energy when I first met you. And as I've started to understand the whole story of Maggie Bode and what makes you click, I'm kind of sad because we got 2 minutes left and we haven't even talked about the Young Leaders Group, which you do amazing work with. And it's
Oh,
such
thank
an
you. It's a
incredible.
it's a group effort, and we have an incredible group this year.
Anyone listening, you're 40 or under, get involved. SSA is coming up in September. Reach out to Maggie. You can reach out to her about that as well. She's more than happy to. Something as near and dear to my heart because I love this industry so much. It's such a special group of people. And the guys at the beginning, I've been lucky enough to have, the founder of Extra Space has been on the podcast, and Mike Burnham from Storage Mart. Why am I forgetting Ken Woolley? There we go. I forgot his last name there for a second.
We
Um,
can cut this. Don't worry.
this is going live, so I can't cut it. Maurice Pagoda of National Storage, who's been in the
Yeah.
industry forever. These guys set a tone, and women too, for that matter, set a tone for this industry that I am so hoping stays even as it gets more institutionalized and consolidates more. So I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing to help younger folks in the industry really establish their leadership and help keep this industry the way it is. That being said, I promised our audience that we were going to talk a little bit. So my question for you is, does Loverboy survive or does it go out of business?
Oh my gosh, I've been waiting 29 and a half minutes for this. I think given the recent turmoil, I think Kyle's going to be just fine. Carl may be a mess, but Kyle's going to be just fine.
So this is my next question. Does Kyle Cook, the human being, deserve for Loverboy to make it through?
At this point, just give him a win. Just give him one win. His history is not great, but I just can't wait for the reunion. I am. just
I love
holding
it.
on.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if it's an if you know, you know you deal, Maggie and I are closet fans of the show Summer House.
My
I
closet
sadly
open.
adopted, me too, actually. It's funny enough, you asked me off camera, did your wife or your daughters turn you on to this show? And I'm like, no, I turned my wife and my daughters onto the show. I was the one that
So
started
good.
watching it.
It's so
Season
good.
one, Summer House, guilty pleasure, but happily. So I'm not ashamed in any way, shape, or form. Been there from the beginning. Uh, Very fun and so happy to get to talk to you about that. It was funny that you asked me that question, like, is it something? But you said something which I thought was fascinating because I also adopted Love Island. I started watching British version of Love Island before the US version even started. I was
Yeah.
3 seasons into the British version. And you said something about that made me feel a little bit better about myself, which was, you remember what you said before we went on camera?
People, I truly believe this. And like ESPN is the Bravo for men. So nobody is
Um,
not included in this. It is such a psychological evaluation of humans, like watching reality TV. And I don't know, you have to be pretty emotionally intelligent to be a viewer of reality TV, I think. So here
I
we are.
appreciate. I'm gonna comfort myself with what you said. That makes me feel much better about my
There you
guilty
go.
pleasure. I have probably watched. I know I have. I've watched as many episodes of Love Island as any person in the world because I've watched every episode that's ever existed. Don't share that too broadly. But Maggie Bode had more fun in this half hour than I thought I was going to, which is saying something because I knew I was going to have a blast hanging out with you. Cannot thank you enough for coming and spending some time with me on the show.
Well, thank you. Talking to you is such a treat. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you back. Speaking of appreciation, I'm going to give one last shout out to my friends at Kiwi 2. I got to get used to that. I'm so used to saying Kiwi 2 Construction, and they got the construction off of their name. Shout out to Wayne Woolsey and his team. As I've said, and this is not coming from me. I stole this line from a bunch of developers that I speak to in the industry. Simply the best crews in steel. When you need them, they show up. When you need to speed up your project, they'll send extra crews to your project to get it done. Go to kiwisteel.com. If you're a developer, if you've got a project, as early as you can, get them involved and take advantage of the 30 plus years of experience to help you have a successful project. Well, she's Maggie Bode, head of enterprise sales at Uniti AI. Reach out to her if you have not. If your answering machine still has press 1-4, reach out to Maggie as soon as you can. Maggie at getunity.com. Set up a demo to check out what they're doing because it is absolutely game changing and will be something that helps your business on every level. That is it for this week's episode. We'll see everybody next week.